More Dead Roblox Train games. Yes, you heard me right. It's time for another installment of the Dead Roblox Train game series, cause wow, there are a ton of Dead Roblox Train games out there. Like last time, I'll be going through the history of some games, giving honorable mentions to others, and cleaning up some stuff from the last video that I missed or was mistaken about. Anyway, let us get started on yet another Dead Roblox Train game hunt and explore these forgotten railways. First up on this list is probably the first miniature game railway we'll be talking about, that game being EAN Miniature Railway, developed by EAN 007 in 2016 with things from Stanwolf, NER 1310, XX Hursty, and Hammond 30. This extremely short live stream layout was surprisingly popular for the time, gaining over 600,000 visits. The line consists of a loop around a small stream with a bridge crossing over, a few buildings, some paths, and a yard with several other engines and rolling stock. As of now, most of the engines no longer work, with only one or two being slightly functional, and some of the stock being somewhat runnable as well. Mesh Trends is a 6-stud test layout made by none other than Greg Tame, who maybe made a slightly well-known train game. This game takes place in an empty field of sorts with several lines going around the place with a yard and several pieces of rolling stock. The game uses mostly meshes, which, surprise, is the game's namesake. The game is extremely interesting as the style of the trains is more akin to the 2018 Roblox style, but looks far too clean for CSG. The trains run off a very early looking GUI system similar to Steam and Steel, but working slightly differently. There are two sister games to Mesh Trends: Frugidhatten Tramwell Line and Trennis Ride. I won't go into full detail on these two, but basically Frugidhatten Tramwell Line is Mesh Trennis but better, and Trennis Ride is a strange first-person train ride that is completely broken. It's honestly really interesting to see these early Greg Tame train games considering the massive success of Steam and Steel. Narrow Gauge Line is a semi-large 2-stud line located somewhere in the UK, most likely. The game was developed by Pendennis Castle and released in July of 2018. The game has a sort of free model feel to it considering the detail level of the engines, but I suspect this is because most of those free models came from here. The original place was last updated 4 years ago and was converted to be free drive with most of the engines still running. A revival version was made 1 year later and increased the detail level of the engines and locations, along with redoing the map slightly. Both games have been updated for some time, with the most likely cause being that both the owner lost interest in the game and the fact that it was originally an operations game which was then turned into a free drive once the operations ended. Subway Riders NBTA Edition is most likely the oldest game on this list, being created back in 2009 by Tiger's Rule 101. This game looks and functions like a game made back in the classic era of Roblox. The style is extremely blocky and is honestly really cool to play for those who like that era of Roblox. The game has two lines, the blue line and the red line, with respectively colored metro cards for each line. As for the functionality of a 2009 train game, well, let's just say you're not going to be getting far on either line. The game was last updated 10 years ago, so we're certainly never seen this game being revamped or fixed, but it's still an extremely cool piece of history to check out nonetheless. Misford Valley Line is a 4.8 gauge game owned by StemiTank, being an AU of the Northwestern Railway from what I can tell. The game is surprisingly very detailed for a 2020 era Roblox train game, having a main sheds, stations, tons of locomotives and rolling stock, and being somewhat functional. This is a really interesting railway series styled game, having both the realistic style of say 4.8 Railway and being an AU of the Northwestern Railway route. The game, despite still receiving some updates, is pretty dead with no one really playing it anymore, and I can't exactly tell you why, with my best guess being that, well, players just stopped being interested in this type of train game style. Overall, the game is a really cool AU, and you should really check it out if you have the chance. Flying Trains is a very odd looking game where you sit in very strange maglevs and drive at high speeds to crash into a very large area of sorts. The game was created back in 2011 by Pizza Pods and is pretty obviously one of those survive the train crash games, which was slightly common back in that era of Roblox. Most of the trains don't really work, but some surprisingly still do, albeit considering the game, it's not exactly that fun to play. Overall, it's an interesting game, but it's nothing really special. The ATCT 2 is a massive dual-gauge row scale layout developed by ATCT in May of 2020. This dual-gauge row scale layout is a similar style to the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroads of the first half of the 20th century. The game has a massive layout of standard gauge and narrow gauge locomotives and rolling stock with a ton of trackage to explore and check out. The game was cancelled after Roblox updates destroyed the unioning system for some engines, causing them to be virtually unfixable, and as such, ATCT canceled the game development with a sequel being made, but not yet released as of now. The game is still very much functional, with all the engines and rolling stock still working, albeit some of the line is not in the best condition, so there might be some derailments ending up on the floor. Narrow Gauge Project is a small two-stud, I think, railway located somewhere in the mountains of the UK, I guess. Being made back in 2018 by Headmaster Hastings. This game is a small line going between two stations and a mine with a loop near the main station. Several different locomotives from different regions of the world are present, along with some rolling stock and Scarloey railway engines. The mineshaft also has a poop series of rolling stock, so it's kinda obvious this isn't meant to be taken seriously. The game is fine overall. I do like the style. It reminds me of Hollywell Incline Railway with that low quality type of vibe, but it's nothing really special. Railroad Heaven is a strange hub sort of game for several other different train-related games. Created by Sunny to Ponha back in 2017, this game is less of a train game and more of a generic train-destroying simulator game. There's about 7 other games you can play revolving around the destruction of trains, such as race each other in other trains, drive trains into lava, drive trains into acid, drive trains into each other, drive larger trains off a cliff, destroy old trains, and destroy trains and mortars. There's a lot of train destroying if you couldn't tell. There's also a little narrow gauge tram which goes around the map, which is pretty cute. Overall, the game feels really like a cash grab in a way to promote other train games made with mostly free models, and is honestly kinda lazily made. Although if your idea of Railroad Heaven is destroying trains in different ways, then by all means, this is the game for you. Now it's time to get into the honorable mentions, which are either still getting some players, being somewhat developed, or just inaccessible to play for the general public. A Basement Full of Model Trains is a 12-stud gauge layout developed by Canawanaut, Berkshire in August of 2019. The game consists of a large loop of a few branch lines, a large yard and turntable, a few locomotives, and like 1 or 2 pieces of rolling stock. The game is extremely massive, and while it looks really cool, it's kinda bland and basic when it comes to stuff. The game is still being actively worked on despite not gaining much traction, so it goes in the honorable mentions section for now. Now here's a game that I have personally helped with. Sorta. Glenwood Oakville Black Creek Railroad is a 2.3 stud American logging game originally created by Gaming Butter, but now owned by E2 Tank Engine. The line is extremely massive with loads of different sidings and yards to explore with a large array of rolling stock and locomotives. The game is dead as of now, and with a 25 Robux entry fee, I can't really recommend checking it out. A revamp of the free foot is coming out, but it's currently on the back burner as E2 is currently busy with other projects he's working on. The Arctic Central is a 6-stud standard gauge game developed by Charlie's Rebuilds in July of 2017. The game is located in what I assume is Alaska or Canada from the name alone. The line is extremely large with several stations and yards, but it's really desolate and empty. Some of the engines aren't exactly functional, with the steam locomotives derailing in some sections. The line is so long and it can take up to 10 minutes to get to a station if you're using the GE 80 tonner. The game does look really nice rolling stock wise, but other than that, it's extremely desolate, boring, and a bit sad. The game was last updated a year ago, but since then, nothing really has been added, and I wouldn't be surprised if the owner lost motivation to work on such a massive game. It's a cool game overall, but not one I'd personally play that much. Now it's time for the part where I explain all the stuff I got wrong in the last video, and oh boy, this is gonna be a fun one. First, let's start off with what I said last time about the Whip Revival. Since the last video, I have been informed that yes, permission was given by Edison, with Jordan DT seemingly doing their own thing. The real revival of the project is Zacharis and their team. I'm not sure who's on the dev team. So yeah, check out the game when it releases. So this came out while I was working on this video, but the Whip Revival is dead now. Due to the owner of the Revival, Zacharis PC, being reset, all the progress on the Whip Revival is gone, which is ironically similar to what happened to Edison with North Phyllis. So yeah, the Whip Revival is cancelled for good. Another thing I'd like to mention is that in the last video, I said the KMR was a standard gauge line. Since then, I've been told it's actually Cape gauge. As for why I mistook it for standard gauge, I really couldn't tell considering how many standard gauges there are, so I kind of assumed it was either 4.8 or 6 stud. As for the other thing I messed up on, In the last video, during the honorable mention section, I talked about how the Bloxville Mainline Railway was sorta dead, but still had a dedicated group of people who joined. Since then, I've been told that the game is in fact not dead by the community, despite me putting it in the honorable mention section. I was originally gonna go on a rant here, but I decided that's probably not the best course of action since some of the members and the owners have apologized for the actions of the community. I'd rather relations not get even worse than they are right now. Instead, I will apologize for that mistake, but I do ask that next time you guys see something in the honorable mention section, you don't instantly jump to conclusions that the game is automatically dead, since I have rules for what a game can and can't be in my video. Well, that's the end of another Dead Roblox Train game video. Thank you all so much for watching this through to the end. This will most likely be my last Dead Roblox Train game video for some time, since I'm starting to run out of games to talk about. But knowing Roblox, there's probably enough for at least 8 episodes. Anyway, comment down below what your favorite Dead Roblox Train game is, and if you have one which I haven't covered. Anyway, that's all from me for now. See you all next time.